I'm joined by Thomas Rosenbaum, the Caltech president, just after he's given his keynote address at the first Times Higher Education Asia Universities Summit, hosted by the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Dr. Rosenbaum, what brought you to the Asia Summit, and do you see collaboration with universities in Hong Kong and across Asia as being key to the future for Caltech?
Oh, absolutely. We're in the people business, and we're on the lookout for talent all across the world and being able to exchange ideas. Clearly, the scientific and technological advances in Asia are proceeding at a very rapid way, and we need to be part of that. And so it's really a great pleasure to be here and to be part of this summit.
And you mentioned the issue of size for Caltech.
Yes.
Is that just a pure positive part of what makes Caltech unique, or does it represent some challenges that need to be overcome? Because we hear a lot about critical mass in research.
Right. So size is a mixed blessing or deficit, as it can be. For Caltech, we can do things because of our small size that other places can't. And so we try to position ourselves in ways that take full advantage of the size that we've chosen to be. The major advantage are the interactions between people. We have a culture which emphasizes people asking big questions, talking to each other about it, being unintimidated by disciplinary boundaries. We also try, because of our size, to think carefully about which problems we can attack, which are the ones that are most important, and to try to focus our energies in that way. The negative side, of course, is that you can't do everything. And if you lose a certain subset of people, you could be out of business in a certain arena. And so getting that balance right is where we try to strive.
So there's no question of kind of Caltech growing significantly? But
no, I think at the 10% level we are where we are, educationally as well. Of course, what we can offer our students is an intense research experience. And if we get too big, we can no longer have that intimacy and that ability to train our students in a quantitative way that we hope sends them out with special skills and special attitudes.
I'm sure there are nations around the world, across Asia, that would love to replicate the Caltech model. Is that model something that can be replicated elsewhere, or is it unique to the US, unique to California?
It can be replicated at some level, but there are cultural aspects that take a long time to build. So it's not only financial resources, of course, that's the easy part, but there's intellectual capital and cultural capital that has to be created. But it's certainly a model that can be followed. I talked about, in my talk here at this summit, a bit about some of the elements of that, of fearlessness, of ambition, of focus, of perspective. And I think those are all qualities that can be embraced, if so chosen, by other institutions.
So you'd see kind of the possibility of an Asian Caltech is something that we could foresee in the future potentially?
Well, I think potentially, of course. I think it's also, we're embedded in a bigger higher education ecosystem. So what we do not do in the U.S. as Caltech is educate large amounts of undergraduates. Certainly the University of California, for example, in the state of California, plays a major role that we don't compete with and cannot compete with given our size. So it depends to some extent as well in Asia as to what are the expectations of the role in society that a university will fulfill.
And coming back to the US, we've obviously got a presidential race underway and continuing in the future. Are there any higher education policy initiatives that you'd like to see from a new president?
Oh, well, I'd like to see an embrace of thinking big ideas. The United States has a history of this, and I fear that we've backed away a little from the belief that we can do extraordinary things. And I hope whoever's president will reset that agenda in ways with both the short-term payoffs in terms of technology and improving society, but also the long-term investments in big ideas that when they come to fruition will not only change society, but will create discoveries that the whole human race can celebrate.
And we've heard that it's not going to be sort of significant growth in the future for Caltech, but are there other changes or sort of new strategies that might be coming in the future for Caltech, or are you pretty much on the path that you're going to continue?
Well, I think we want to remain the same place essentially culturally. That is, we want to attract people who have big dreams, who feel that Caltech is the environment where they can realize them, that we have the resources, both financial and intellectual and cultural, that allow those dreams to be realized. However, how they're expressed in which areas, of course, will change. It changes with hiring great people who have their own new directions to pursue, and it also changes in terms of the way discoveries continue to move. So quantum science, for example, is an area where we should now be able to exploit entanglement, not just discrete energy levels, and build new types of resources. The intersection of computation with the various disciplines will bring breakthroughs, most obviously, of course, in biology with bioinformatics, but also in seismology and understanding how the Earth is working and what we can do to save lives in terms of earthquake engineering. There are all kinds of opportunities in this fashion. We talked a little bit at this summit already about the new era in astronomy in terms of having a new window in terms of gravitational waves. So although we believe that the general cultural approach we have and intellectual approach is robust, its expression will continue to change, and of course that's the excitement and the fun of it.
And international collaboration and research
Yes.
with universities in Asia, presumably that's a way to overcome the size barrier. You can become bigger by linking with people around the world.
That's absolutely right, and some of the problems just require that. There's no question about it. I think the challenge for us is as these projects become bigger and as you develop new types of instruments that let you look at nature in new ways and they become more and more expensive, is how do we as Caltech retain intellectual leadership? How do we make that sort of contribution? And it's a much more complicated problem. So the good side is it involves lots of institutions around the world, brings us all together or closer together as societies, exchange of talent. The other part is how do you avoid getting lost in that?
Dr. Rosenbaum, thank you very much for your time.